My fellow SRT4 enthusiasts, welcome back to the channel. Alex the Car Guy here with my SRT4. And on this video, I'm gonna be replacing the cam sensor. Now, where is the cam sensor located? Well, it is gonna be located on this side, which is the driver's side, and it's gonna be located in here, somewhere underneath the air intake. So I actually remove it just to get clearance. It's gonna be dependent on what type of intake is on the car, if there's a need to remove it or not. Here's the cam sensor, and the cam sensor is connected with the harness, and underneath the cam sensor there's also a magnet. So it's basically two parts, the sensor and the magnet. Now, what are the reasons that a cam sensor might need replacement? Well, you may have an engine check engine light, which will tell you a code such as there's a cam sensor issue. Also, I heard of misfires or rough idlings have also been fixed by replacing the cam sensor. Now, it's a fairly inexpensive part, and technically the magnet that's in there is a permanent magnet, so it shouldn't need to be replaced. But the recommendation is, if changing the cam sensor, the magnet should be replaced as well. Now, one of the things that I'm gonna do before I replace the cam sensor, I'm gonna disconnect the battery. That is important because, again, I wanna clear all the codes, and I wanna make sure there's no electrical power before I start plugging or disconnecting anything on the car. I'm gonna place link in the descriptions below to the parts that I'm gonna be using, the cam sensor, the magnet, and to the tools that I'm gonna be using if you guys are interested in looking at those. Also, be aware that sometimes, because replacing the sensor may not just be the solution. Sometimes the sensor is good, but sometimes the wiring behind the sensor has gone bad. So sometimes it's either broken or intermittent, which is sometimes it makes a connection, sometimes it doesn't. So it's always good to inspect the wiring while we're there. And I'll put a link on the description to a replacement connector in case that wiring needs to be replaced. So with that being said, let's get started. I have removed the air intake to gain access to the cam sensor area. The cam sensor can be seen right here. To remove the sensor, first I'm gonna disconnect the harness by pulling up on the red tab and then pushing down on the connector to unlock it, and then pulling straight down. That should remove the connector from the actual sensor. The sensor is held in with 2 bolts. One thing to be careful is that I don't drop the bolt, otherwise it'll be really hard to find somewhere down there. Now the sensor can be pulled straight off. Now I'm going to clean some of the oil off to work in a clean area. I'm going to be removing a T30 bolt which holds the magnet in place. With the bolt removed, I can simply slide the magnet out. Again, I'm gonna clean some of this area just to make sure that they're free of oil and the surface is nice and clean for the new gasket. First, I'm gonna install the magnet. There are 2 little prongs that are gonna locate the magnet into its correct position. And then I'm gonna install the screw by hand just to avoid any cross-threading. Then I'm gonna install it with the actual wrench. And finally, torque it. I'm being careful not to go too hard here, as this is plastic and it can break easily. Now comes the cam sensor. I'm gonna apply the gasket around this little groove, making sure it's nice and flat. And then I'm gonna align it in the correct position. Then I'm just simply gonna start again the screws by hand. And once I get them going, then I can use tools. And finally, I'll torque both of the bolts to factory spec. Now I'm gonna reconnect the harness sensor, making sure it clicks in place, and then pushing down on the red locking tab. And that completes replacement of the cam sensor. Now, since I disconnected the battery, technically any codes that were stored in the memory should have been erased. But I'm gonna double check by connecting my OBD reader just to make sure that they're clear and we start nice from scratch. Now, normally, a cam sensor doesn't have to be replaced unless it has actually failed. But in my experience with SRT4, these sensors and the magnet both seem to be almost like replaceable, consumable items. And I see cases where the sensor is cracked, I see cases where the magnet is cracked. I also seen where the sensor and the magnet look good, but the card just doesn't perform as well. So I consider the replacement of the sensor to be kind of a maintenance item, especially on a high mileage SRT4. Well, that's it for this video, guys. I have a lot more SRT4 content. If you guys have any videos that you'd like to see on the SRT4, please make sure to put that in the comments below. If you have any questions about the cam sensor replacement, also feel free to comment down below. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next upload. And as always, thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one.